Welcome to this visual explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because we're jumping right into something that could completely change how you look at your organization's workflow. We are talking about really optimizing your processes, eliminating operational waste, and significantly reducing strategic costs. And the best part? We're going to get crystal clear visibility into your business operations without getting stuck in the mud of analysis paralysis. We're doing all this by exploring the power of the SIPOC matrix. Okay, let's dive into this with a question that honestly keeps a lot of business leaders up at night. Are your processes actually optimized, or are you kind of just assuming they are? So often, organizations are just plagued by these chaotic information silos and incredibly bloated operational costs. Leaders think they know exactly how their business runs, but when you look under the hood, man, it's usually a tangled web of inefficiencies. And that tangled web leads us directly to a pretty universal truth. You know the old saying, right? Garbage in, garbage out. It's a classic operations management premise for a reason. The quality of your outputs is just fundamentally conditioned by the quality of your inputs. Think about it. If bad data, flawed materials, or even just unclear instructions enter your workflow, you are basically guaranteed to get a bad result on the other end. That is exactly why we need a structured, high-level framework to see the whole board and fix those strategic leaks before they cost you serious time and money. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by defining what a SIPOC diagram actually is, then we'll explore the real-world cost reductions and benefits. After that, we'll walk through a step-by-step technical build, check out some practical tools, and finally, we'll see how artificial intelligence is totally shaping the future of this framework.
All right, part one. What exactly is a SIPOC diagram?
So what does this acronym actually stand for? SIPOC stands for Suppliers, Inputs, Process, Outputs, and Customers. It's this fantastic, high-level visual tool that actually came out of the total quality management movement back in the 1980s. Its entire purpose is to map out your processes across these 5 key elements. Instead of treating your customers, your business, and your suppliers like they're isolated islands, SIPOC brings them all together into one unified framework. It gives you this amazing panoramic bird's-eye view of any operational flow, regardless of how massive or tiny your organization is. And this brilliantly illustrates why this tool is so uniquely effective. When we compare SIPOC to your traditional flowcharts or BPMN models, the difference is literally night and day. Traditional flowcharts give you a super micro view. They're multi-page, highly complex, and they focus heavily on internal task deviations and conditionals. Now, they're great for IT analysts, sure, but they cause severe analysis paralysis for leadership. SIPOC, on the other hand, it's a macro view. It's just 5 simple columns. It has very low visual complexity and explicitly defines exactly where a process starts and where it ends. It totally stops you from getting bogged down in those operational exceptions.
Moving on to part 2, cost reduction and benefits. Why should you actually care about implementing this?
Well, the benefits are pretty massive. Think of SIPOC as this incredibly precise gap analysis tool. By mapping your process this way, you immediately diagnose inefficiencies and eliminate operational waste, what the lean methodology calls MUDA. You get to optimize how you use your human and material resources, which of course directly drives down your operational costs. It helps you shorten cycle times and eliminate bottlenecks, which accelerates your whole value stream. And ultimately, documenting your workflow in this standardized format guarantees operational consistency. It elevates the final quality of whatever product or service you're delivering. Now, here's a really cool pro tip for modern, agile businesses. Enter the COPIS twist. Instead of reading left to right, agile teams are structuring the matrix in reverse: customers, outputs, process, inputs, and then suppliers. By working backward like this, you are literally forced to define the customer's expectations and requirements first. This is absolutely perfect if you're designing an entirely new customer-centric services from scratch, because it ensures you only ever create processes that deliver true value to the end user. Okay, part 3. Let's get our hands dirty with a step-by-step technical construction. So creating a SIPOC matrix might seem straightforward. Just fill it out left to right, right? Actually, scratch that. The correct technical execution is totally counterintuitive. You build it from the inside out. Step 1, you always start with the center column, the process. You have to establish the exact boundaries, where it starts and ends. Step 2, move to the right and list your outputs, making sure to assign quality metrics or KPIs to them. Step 3, identify the customers receiving those specific outputs. Then, step 4, jump all the way back over to the left side to determine your inputs and measure their defect rates. And finally, step 5, list the critical suppliers who are providing those inputs. Now, I really want to pause on this number because it is basically the golden rule of SIPOC mapping.
When you are defining that central process column, you absolutely must limit it to between 4 and 7 macro steps, no more. If you find your team listing 8, 9, or 10 steps, you guys are getting lost in the micro details and operational exceptions. You have to keep it high level. Map the happy path that covers 80% of your standard cases and just put those exceptions aside for a later phase.
So, the crucial point is how you actually test if you've built it correctly. Once your team finishes up the mapping, you use this technical validation formula to test the logical consistency of your matrix. You basically just read it straight across like a sentence. Supplier X delivers input Y, which feeds macro stage Z to generate output A, which is ultimately consumed by customer B. If that sentence makes perfect logical sense when you say it out loud, then congratulations, your SIPOC diagram is successfully validated.
Let's jump into part 4, practical cases and the tools you need to pull this off. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it grounds all this theory into a tangible, high-velocity, everyday example. Let's look at a specialty coffee shop. The suppliers? That includes the coffee distributor. Inputs are the beans and the fresh milk. The process is neatly contained in just 5 macro steps, going from receiving the order right to assembling the product. The outputs are the prepared beverage and the receipt, and the customers are the end consumer plus the accounting department for the receipt. But notice the inclusion of key metrics here. We are actually measuring the input quality, like the milk refrigeration temperature must be exactly 4 degrees Celsius, and the output KPI is a delivery time of 3 minutes or less. This right here is how you make SIPOC truly actionable.
When it comes to the tools for actually building this, my strategic advice is to start simple. Seriously, use basic tools like a physical whiteboard with sticky notes or just a simple Excel or Google Sheet. You really want to avoid technical distractions during that initial mapping phase. Once the team has validated the flow, then you can migrate to virtual diagramming software like Miro or Lucidchart for your remote collaboration. And eventually, you can move to advanced management platforms like Asana or KPI Fire to link those macro steps directly to your live performance indicators. Finally, part 5, we're looking at artificial intelligence and how it's supercharging the future of SIPOC. Listen, the days of a team staring blankly at a whiteboard for hours are totally over. By using generative AI and some strategic prompt engineering, your team can take an incredible shortcut. You can literally instruct an advanced language model to act as a master black belt operations consultant. You just give it your specific process, and in a matter of seconds, it will generate a fully structured 5-column SIPOC draft, complete with suggested macro stages and critical KPIs. You no longer have to start from a blank page. You start from a highly educated first draft, which saves your quality management teams hours of work. But the AI integration goes way deeper than just that initial drafting. In really complex environments like e-commerce or B2B SaaS, organizations are actively using deep learning algorithms to predict operational risks. If the AI detects that a workflow is heading toward a crisis, the SIPOC model is applied to quickly restructure it. On top of that, companies are using Python automation frameworks like Scapy within the suppliers column to automatically identify, classify, and gather data on ideal commercial partners. AI is basically diagnosing risks and sourcing suppliers to feed directly into the SIPOC's framework in real time. It's a total game changer. To wrap things up, I want to leave you with a powerful, somewhat provocative final thought. If you cannot map your core process in 5 to 7 simple steps, do you truly understand how it works? The SIPOC diagram isn't just a chart. It's a mirror reflecting your true operational clarity. I challenge you to apply this framework to your own business this week. Test your clarity, uncover those hidden inefficiencies, and start eliminating the waste that's holding your organization back. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I absolutely can't wait to see how you optimize your workflows.